Welcome. Scott here. Here is a quick boss guide for the upcoming story chapter Act 3 Chapter 10 Part 2 to Light's Source. The event marks the debut of one of the highly anticipated supercharging FR, Hope FR. The event synergy units are Minwu, Hope, Papalymo and Kefka. Hope FR will be making its debut. Both Hope and Kefka will be getting C90 Awakenings rework. All event characters will be getting their force enhancements. We will be fighting Bhunivelze, which has 170 million HP. The boss is immune to delay, including breaks, launch and turn deletion. Its brave cannot drop to below 0, which makes it immune to breaks. The turn requirement is 80. The HP requirements is 5000. Before I continue further, here is a small disclaimer clause for the video. The guide is written based on the time that the event was released for the Japanese version. Please do note that it is possible that the boss fight mechanics might differ when the actual event is released in global. Like most other Shinryu fights, the boss gains increased brave damage and gain resistances at start of the fight and 49% HP threshold. Bringing a support like Lunafreya, Charlotta, Aerith, Ramza, Selpha that grants damage boosting aura will make your fight easier. As the boss gains substantial boost to their defenses with the auras, it is important to inflict debuffs that lower their defenses. When its force gauge reaches 50% and above, the boss will trigger a counter against physical brave attacks called Giga Graviton, which will KO the unit that trigger it. So avoid bringing melee and ranged based units is your best option. For this month, 5 of the events will feature a form of elemental lockout. For this fight, all brave damage from ranged and melee attacks will be resisted with 200% brave damage resistance when the boss force gauge reaches 200%. You can still bypass this with brave cap damage or rainbow, ignore defense, gravity, brave gains mechanics like Charlotta. To ensure that you are constantly able to keep the boss brave at the respectable low levels, it is advisable to form a magic-oriented team. You can consider bringing Minwu, Rinoa, Terra, Charlotta, Vaughn, Aerith, Papalymo, Lunafreya, Yuna, Garnet, or Iroha. This boss fight feature lots of HP attacks as the boss will trigger a HP attack every 1 to 2 turn. Its recast ability will trigger a party wipe counter. Brave damage mitigation, break immunity, shields or brave floor will help a lot for this fight. Hope can reduce the damage with his shell and protect buffs. Revive units like Eiko, Aerith, or Ishtala can be useful as they can also keep your party safe with their brave refund mechanics. HP damage mitigation supports like Celis, Beatrix, and Purim can also ensure your party will be safe from the constant HP attacks. Other than the force ability and Giga Graviton counter, all the boss attacks aren't guaranteed hit. You can evade all other attacks with an evasion tank like Leela or Etch. Ridia can also work well with her blink buff. You can also lower its hit rate with the blind debuffs. The boss isn't immune to HP silence. You can actually stun lock the boss with HP silence. Unfortunately, the Giga Graviton counter will trigger even the boss is under the influence of a turn disable debuff like HP silence, paralysis, or confusion. In JP, a lot of players have made use of Quistis force delay mechanic so they can do boss no turn runs. As it is a single target boss and despite the boss trigger the physical brave counter, the event still features lot of Tifa runs. The trick is to get your force gauge up before the boss gauge reaches 50%. The boss can trigger debuffs at certain HP thresholds. It is advisable to bring debuff evasion units like Aerith or have a debuff cleanser support like Yuna to cleanse when needed. Alternatively, you block all buff slots with 6 frame debuffs to avoid the trigger. As we are no longer have Lufania Plus fights, the boss guide will be focused primarily on Shinryu fights. In Shinryu, you need to understand the effects gained by the boss as the force gauge build up, its force ability and its force time effect. If your party has low force levels, it is highly certain that the boss force gauge will build up faster than yours. To have a better understanding on the basics of the force gauge mechanics and Shinryu fights, I have done a video explaining the mechanics. I have included the link to the video under the comments and video description for your quick reference. Generally for this fight, the boss force gauge is broken into two thresholds. When the boss gauge is more or equal to 20%, the boss will gain 200% brave resistance to melee and ranged brave damage. When the boss gauge is more or equal to 50%, the boss will counter any physical brave attacks with Giga Graviton. Giga Graviton is a single target KO attack. Physical brave attacks include brave attack from melee or ranged based abilities. The counter won't get trigger against call abilities. It also won't trigger while in burst or summon mode. Do note that the counter will still trigger even if the boss is under a turn disable debuff status like confusion, paralysis, or HP silence. The boss force gauge will build up faster as its HP is lowered. You can refer to the table on the screen for the percentages. At the 100% threshold, the boss will use its force ability, Almagest++ and activates its force time for 4 turns. The boss force ability, Almagest++ will result the boss use an AoE Brave plus guaranteed hit HP attack. Upon using the force ability, the boss will enter into its force time where the gauge will start to emit a red hue with a counter of 4 on its gauge. When the force time is activated, the bosses will gain an enhancement where it will raise its speed up by 100%. To freeze the enemy's force time effects, you need to use a magic force ability that inflicts a debuff. At the moment only 2 FR ability inflicts a debuff, and that is Hope FR along with Terra FR. Upon dealing the boss force weakness, you will disable the boss enhance guard aura that is trigger at the 49% HP threshold. The boss will get staggered and it will lowers both its HP and brave damage resistance by 50%. Now let's go through the fight key mechanics. First of all, let's start off with the boss aura. Other than the standard Shinryu aura mentioned earlier, the boss will also gain power up aura at the 79% and 49% HP threshold. At the 79% HP threshold, the boss will power up with a blue aura and raises its turn rate by 30%. At the 49% HP threshold, the boss will power up the aura further by raising its attack by 50% in addition to the turn rate up aura it gained earlier. The aura will change its color to yellow. At the 49% HP threshold, the boss will also activate its enhance guard where it will get an additional 99% brave resistance and 100% HP damage resist. This can be cancelled by using a magic FR ability that also inflicts a debuff. You can still do normal HP damage as long as your force time is active. Like the previous fight, the boss will also inflict trigger debuffs. The boss will inflict a 1-turn Doom debuff. The Doom debuff will trigger a break upon the debuff expired. The threshold's trigger is 79%, 59%, 39%, and 29%. Do note that the debuff trigger will also get triggered while in summon or burst phase. You can block the debuffs with a debuff negation debuff like Ragin LDCA or Reno LDCA. You can evade the debuffs with debuff evasion support like Aerith or party-wide evasion. Alternatively, you can also block your buff slots with 6 framed buffs to avoid the debuffs being inflicted. The boss has a standard damage rotation cycle. It will start off with a full recast gauge which will fills up in 3 boss actions. The boss will rotate between the following 2 moves. It will use Graviton, a single target magic brave attack. On the subsequent turn, it will use Reaper, which is an AoE melee brave plus HP attack. Whenever the boss brave is high, it will trigger Ruin Ga, a single HP attack. The recast ability Almagest is another AoE brave plus HP attack. It will trigger Reaper plus, an instant party KO wipe attack if it ever breaks any of the targets with the attack. So don't get broken by the recast ability or it is an instant game over. As this is quite a restrictive fight, here is some additional tips from me on how to handle the fight. 1. Avoid bringing melee and ranged units or they will get countered to death with Giga Graviton while the boss force gauge is greater than or equal to 50%. Tifa can still work pretty well here as long as you time her attacks well. Do note that the Giga Graviton counter won't get triggered during summon or burst phase. 2. Stun lock the boss with HP silence. Block the inflict debuffs with debuff negation call, debuff evasion, evasion or fill up your buff slots with 6 framed buffs. 3. Boss is immune to all aspects of turn denial utility, delay from breaks, turn deletion and delay. You can still bypass this with Quistis force delay mechanics. 4. Lastly, avoid get broken when the boss is about to use its recast ability. Or your party will get wiped by Reaper Plus. Brave Refund and Evasion will help a lot against that. We have come to the last part of the guide. Recommended FR units for this fight are Tira, Hope and Vaughn. Tira and Hope FR can help to disable the Enhance Guard mechanic that the boss gains at the 49% HP threshold. To speed up your force gauge filling, you can bring force chargers like Pernello, Selpha, Aerith, Charlotta, Hope and Lunafreya. Hope is one of the best FR charger units. I will highly recommend to get him if you don't have any FR level force charger. Due to the brave resistances and the KO counter trigger from the boss force gauge mechanic, bringing a magic-oriented squad is properly the safest approach for this fight. As the boss can constantly trigger debuffs at certain HP thresholds, debuff evasion support like Aerith or using a debuff negation call like Raijin will be very useful here. Avoid getting broken by the boss recast ability, Almagest at all costs. If you don't, the party will get wiped out by the boss Reaper Plus follow-up attack. Damage mitigation tanks like Beatrix, Purim, and Celis will ensure your party will always be safe from these attacks. Celis will be getting her powerful FR and BT on the following banner. You can also evade these attacks with magic evasion tanks like Leela and Edge or make the boss miss its attacks with blind debuffs. You can turn the boss in a punching bag by stun locking it with HP silence. Before I end the guide, let's cover a bit on the featured FR unit. Hope is one of the best defensive supports for magic-oriented team comp. Hope can reduce brave damage from physical and magic damage with his protect and shell buffs respectively. As long as those buffs are active, you will minimize potential breaks and severely reduce the boss brave damage, thus reducing the damage received. Hope FR conditions are relatively simple to meet. Let's briefly go through the FR conditions. 1. Maintain at least a total of 13 buffs for the party when your unit takes a turn. With an exception of a few, most of the units will come with 3 buffs. Add 2 more buffs from Hope's Protect and Shell, you can easily meet the criteria. Fulfilling this will net you 30% HP damage bonus. 2. You will get 20% HP damage bonus if the active member batteries an ally. Hope himself will increase the HP damage bonus by 40% when he fulfill this condition. Hope's base skills are instant turn and they will grant 50% HP damage bonus per skill use if Hope has maxed force enhancements. In other words, Hope can easy boost HP damage bonus by 120% per turn with a single use of his base skills during his force time. His FR is most easily exploitable with a supercharging strategy followed by a nuke attack like using Cyan LDCA, N Across, Sid Highwinds EX etc. With this, I have come to the end of my boss guide presentation. Hopefully you find it useful. If you like the video, please give a like. Please subscribe to my channel for future gaming content. Good luck for the fight in the coming hours. Bye.